I have directed my administration to respond with a swift, coordinated, and aggressive effort to save lives. The people of Haiti will have the full support of the United States in the urgent effort to rescue those trapped beneath the rubble and to deliver the humanitarian relief, the food, water, and medicine that Haitians will need in the coming days.
The tragedy in Haiti is a reminder again to this White House that some things are out of their control. The president cancels his jobs event today. Remember, they were going to try to pivot to that and instead focused on the earthquake.
A pause, but just a pause in politics as it gets chilly for Democrats up in Massachusetts. Top Line starts right now.
Hello and welcome to ABCNews.com's Top Line. I'm David Chalian.
And I'm Rick Klein.
Each weekday we're bringing you the very latest political headlines, reporting, insight, analysis, everything you need and want to know about politics.
And it's twitter.com/The Note. Share your thoughts all day long, any day.
What is your top line today, sir?
Unwavering support. President Obama promises the full support of the federal government as we deal with the tragedy down in Haiti, and it does look like it's a tragedy of major proportions. The government swings into action. As you mentioned, David, he's forced to cancel a jobs-related event. This is the time where politics takes a back seat to the importance of getting aid down there. It is a bipartisan effort, and all eyes are down on Haiti.
No doubt about that. Let's make a deal. Obama is also meeting today with congressional leaders, Democratic congressional leaders from both the House and the Senate, still trying to hammer out a final health care deal before the State of the Union address, of course. And there's word leaking out now, Rick, that there is possibly some movement on the issue of the Cadillac tax that we've been discussing for days. Perhaps unions are squeezing a bit more from the White House here than we had initially thought. If indeed a health care plan was arranged through collective bargaining, perhaps that'll be exempt from this tax. That would be a big win for the unions. And then there's talk also about, on the wealthy, those earning over $250,000, raising the Medicare payroll tax to help make up for some of that revenue.
Yeah, talk about your special deal. If the union plans are particularly exempted from it, it's going to open up Democrats to lots of charges of catering to some of their favorites. But you can imagine that that would make it a little easier for the AFL-CIO, the SEIU to come around if their people aren't impacted at all. Hauled in. A testy day expected up on Capitol Hill today as the commission examining the financial crisis gets underway with the four heads of the biggest banks, people that received the TARP money, hauled in to testify before Congress. It is, of course, coming in the midst of bank bonus season, where we're hearing about the enormous money that's going out to these organizations that paid back the TARP money. President Obama signaling, though, this is going to be tomorrow. We're going to hear more details of this special tax that they want to levy on financial institutions.
Because of how huge that earthquake news is in Haiti, it is overshadowing what would have been the front and center story today. These bank CEOs are actually quite lucky in a perverse sense of the news cycle. And wake-up call. Rick mentioned this at the top of the show with the Massachusetts Senate race. Democrats are hearing the alarm bells ringing. The race is clearly closer than anyone anticipated. However, I'm a big believer in a win is a win. And we will see next Tuesday if indeed the Republicans pull this out. Just getting close is not enough to defeat health care. Just getting close is not a 41st vote in the Senate. And although it may be indicative of what is a troubling 2010 cycle, that's not new information for the Democrats.
But it tells a story, and it's a story that Democrats don't like being told. It may be that these alarm bells went off just in time for Democrats, just far enough out where they can respond, put the money and the resources into it, and realize that this is not a gimme. They're going to have to work for it.
Right now, both sides really trying to drum up business with their respective bases. We're going to begin with Congressman Kevin McCarthy. He's a Republican from California, and he heads up the recruiting effort for the National Republican Congressional Committee. It is your job, sir, to make sure that you have enough folks recruited so that you can win 40 seats and take back majority of the House. Thank you very much for being here. I do want to read you a little bit about what David Axelrod, senior White House advisor, said earlier this week, because it was our first inkling into what is the Democratic message that they plan to take on the campaign trail with you guys. We're going to put it up on the screen. David Axelrod told Ron Brownstein they want to stand with the insurance industry on health care and protect the status quo. Then let them defend that in an election. If they want to stand with the banks and financial industries and protect the status quo, let them explain that in an election. If the party over 8 years turned a surplus into the most significant growth in national debt by far in the history of the country and left this president with a $1.3 trillion deficit when he walked in the door in economic crisis, let them campaign on fiscal integrity. Sir, what do you say to that when they say this is not just going to be a referendum on them? This is going to be about a comparison with you.
Well, one thing I would say, this is going to be about jobs, the lack thereof in the United States. And we'll go toe-to-toe on every issue they want to talk about because we have a different way forward, one of hope, one of opportunity for a better America. One thing I will tell you, when I go across this country, these are fresh faces that are running. These are people that have never run for office before. And let me tell you why maybe the White House has this all wrong and they're thinking wrong. They think they're prepared for this. They have somebody of their own party that got elected just a year ago switch to Republican. They've had their top recruits quit and stop running because they cannot run on the merit and the policies that's come out of here. You look at the health care bill that's moving forward. American public doesn't support it, but what happens? It's backroom deals where C-SPAN can't even be on, and they're cutting another deal, and what, they're going to cut another deal with the union to try to get it through? This is not the way to pass legislation that helps America move forward.
You mentioned the health care bill. I'm curious, are you encouraging 2010 candidates to say explicitly if they're elected they would repeal the health care bill?
Well, what I would tell them is there's a better way forward with the health care. We would repeal those portions of it that we disagree with. One thing that I would say we want to do, we want to lower the cost of health care. This bill increases the cost of health care. We had a proposal, the Republicans put out, the Congressional Budget Office scored it and said it would actually lower premiums by 8%. But that didn't get to see the light of day because this administration only wants to deal with one side.
Congressman, we know that this is shaping up to be a good year for you guys in the Republican Party, no doubt about that. But in terms of the overall environment, I'm wondering, we've seen several special elections on the House side, and the Democrats seem to continue to win those special elections over the last couple years. Why is that? Why are we not seeing the Republican advantage that we see elsewhere in enthusiasm actually at the ballot box when voters go to the polls?
Well, okay, you want to talk about New York. New York was a primary and a general. A backroom deal sat there and picked who the nominee is.
That was
without
one
the individuals.
special. What about the other New York race?
Well, one thing I'll take from the New York races is the two people who won had never been elected before. They were fresh faces. The Democrats understood that. But the one thing I will tell you, let's talk about the special election. Let's go to Kentucky, where they had a Senate race where the Democrats outspent us 3-1, where the registration was the Democrat potential where they had the advantage. And our nominee, the Republican, only ran one commercial. This is for state Senate, where he took his opponent's face, morphed it into Speaker Nancy Pelosi and said, you vote for me, I'll help stop Obama health care. And you know what? He won. You look at New Mexico, a Republican mayor. You look at the special election in Tennessee. You look at the race in New Jersey and Virginia for governor. Look at. In that 2005, Rahm Emanuel said, when you have a big election on big issues, big things happen. It was true then, and it is true now. Every time that New Jersey and Virginia, in an off-presidential year, has an election and it shifts both ways, just like it did in '93, it's an indicator of what the future election holds. And when you poll the individuals that voted in that election for McDonald, well, this is